forward.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are Facebook Live, so this is our last meeting of the month of January. The year's going to fly by. I can just feel it. We appreciate you being here. We'll call this meeting to order. Our first action will be to go for stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll follow that with an invocation by Alderman Sistrunk, and then a moment of silence. So if you would, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alderman Sistrunk, if you would.
Thank you. Loving God, as we continue into this new year, we deeply trust that whatever comes our way, whatever challenges and surprises may surface, whatever unexpected moments may arise, you are with us and go with us into every circumstance. May we feel surrounded by your presence. Amen.
Again, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here this evening. Our first order of business will be to go through the agenda with the consent items and see if there's any changes to be recommended or asked for by the board. Alderman Moreland, any changes to the agenda or the consent agenda? No, right? Alderman Rupp?
No, ma'am.
Alderman Brooks?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Alderman Beatty? Alderman Sistrunk?
Would there be support tonight that we're all here to move item X10D under board business and 10E under board business to the consent agenda? They are housekeeping matters related to the issuance of TIF bonds that the board had previously agreed to support.
Do we have any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, we'll move those to the consent agenda.
Thank y'all.
I get to read them. Anything else, Alderman Sistrunk?
No, ma'am.
All right. Vice Mayor Perkins?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Alderman Vaughn?
No, ma'am, thank you.
All right, in that case, I need a motion to approve the agenda with the consented items as amended.
So moved.
Alderman Rupp, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Moreland. All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And with that, I will read the consented agenda items. I'm going to open this water up for that resolution. First, we have consideration of the minutes of the December 17th, 2024 recess meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. We have consideration of the minutes of the January 3rd, 2025 work session of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Under board business, we have consideration of reappointing Russ Rogers to the George M. Bryan Field Airport Board for the term ending December 2028. B is consideration of reappointing Wes Gordon to the Starkville-Oktibbeha Consolidated School District Board for the term ending February 2030. C is consideration of the appointment of Melita Tomlinson to the Starkville Election Commission. Then item D is consideration of the resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, authorizing and directing the issuance of tax increment financing revenue bonds, Series 2025, Garin Manufacturing Redevelopment Project of the City of Starkville in the maximum principal amount of $4,250,000 in one or more series to provide funds for the purpose of paying or reimbursing the costs of constructing various infrastructure improvements for the use or benefit of the Garin Manufacturing Redevelopment Project pursuant to plans, including the tax increment financing plan presented to and approved by the municipality, prescribing the form and incidence of the bonds, providing for the collection, segregation, and distribution of the tax increment revenues to be derived from the tax increment financing district pursuant to the tax increment financing plan in an amount sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds, authorizing the various funds and accounts, including a debt service reserve account, making provision for maintaining the tax-exempt status of the bonds, if any, approving and authorizing the execution of a bond purchase agreement for the bonds, acknowledging and authorizing the execution of the post-issuance compliance procedures, approving and authorizing the execution and distribution of a bond purchase agreement pertaining to the sale of the bonds, engaging various professionals in connection with the authorization, issuance, validation, sale, and delivery of the bonds, and for related purposes. Doesn't that make you want to be a lawyer? And E is resolution of the Mayor and the Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville adopting and approving the form of an interlocal cooperation agreement with the Oktibbeha County, Mississippi, in support of the Garin Manufacturing Redevelopment Project, authorizing the execution of the interlocal cooperation agreement and for related purposes. Under airport, item A is request approval of the lower of two quotes for clearing and grubbing 15.3 acres in the amount of $3,195 per acre from Pace Excavating at George M. Bryan Field. Under engineering, item 1 is consideration of approving the low bid from Groundstone Construction in the amount of $211,083 for the Lampkin Street, Montgomery Street intersection improvements project. 2 is consideration of approving the low bid from Tree Huggers in the amount of $79,350 for tree trimming, cutting scopes, and Jackson Land Services for forestry mulching in the amount of $11,200 and awarding first alternate bids to Ground Pounders and Tree Huggers. Under Finance Administration, item 2 is request acceptance of the December 2024 financial statements. Under Human Resources, we have number 1, request approval to hire Trenton Johnson as a non-certified police officer. 2 is request authorization to hire Daniel Fauché as a seasonal meter technician for Starkville Utilities. 3 is request approval to hire Tristan Guy as a seasonal sanitation worker. Under Information Technology, 1 is request approval of purchase through EPL 3760 state contract listing of network equipment and installation from C-Spire in the amount of $63,038.40, which is 100% reimbursable through the fiscal year 22 MOHS grant. Under Parks, we have consideration of approving permission to apply for funding in the amount of $150,000 from the 2025 Mississippi Recreational Trails Program for a skate park, which requires an approximate $30,000 match from the city. Under the Police Department, we have consideration of an application for a 100% reimbursable fiscal year 26 Police Traffic Services, PTS, enforcement grant for funding of approximately 680 hours in enforcement overtime, seatbelt, child restraint, and speeding, and speed detecting equipment. B is consideration of application for a 100% reimbursable fiscal year 26 154 AL alcohol impaired driving enforcement grant for DUI enforcement to fund 2 DUI officers and approximately 600 hours in overtime for DUI enforcement. And under utilities, we have number 1, consideration of accepting the sole source quote from Control Systems, Inc. to replace the wastewater treatment plant SCADA system in the amount of $28,990. 2 is consideration of accepting the sole source quote from Annexer for 2,000 V4 water modules in the amount of $307,620, in that they are the only dealer in this area and these modules are specific to the current meter system. 3 is request authorization to purchase from state contract MS EPL 3760 Cisco Meraki equipment from Endeavor IT for Wi-Fi in the amount of $6,589.40. Number 4 is request authorization to accept the low quote from sole source distributor of ABB Meters, Spectrum Group, Inc. for replacement well meters, 5 8-inch and 2 10-inch, in the amount of $32,745, in that these are replacement meters and coordinate with existing equipment. 5 is request authorization to accept the low quote from Bill Young for labor to install 7 replacement well meters, 5 8-inch and 2 10-inch, in the amount of $20,470. 6 is request authorization to accept the low quote from AutoNation Ford, Memphis, in the amount of $64,681.50 to purchase a 2024 Ford F-350 4x4 Super Cab service body truck in replacement of a 2013 Ford F-350 Super Cab vehicle, last 4 digits of VIN number 0437, which is requested to be declared as surplus and able to be sold on GovDeals or another surplus venue. And 7 is approval of the task order number 1 with Cassidy Company, Inc. to provide engineering services for the Josie Creek Lift Station evaluation. And that concludes the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Mayor.
Happy to do that. All right, and that moves us on to announcements and comments. And we did have employee introductions, but we're going to postpone those. So I want to take this opportunity to, number 1, say what a nice event the Unity program was yesterday on Martin Luther King Day, and thank the Vice Mayor for his representation of the city at the Montpelier Church for that program. And then the walk was a very, very good walk, a little cold, but we all survived and everybody marched. So it was a nice day. Also, I want to announce, and I'm not announcing it because it's already been announced, but I want to make sure everybody knows that we now are going to have air service going west starting May the 5th, which is really exciting. So I think that shows that there is growth in the area and certainly that all the activities that we've had in the Tri-County and the Golden Triangle region is proving to be good business for us. So starting May the 5th, American Airlines will be going west to Dallas. So you don't have to go east to go west any longer, which is a really positive thing, and I think that's great for our community. So I was very excited about that. All right, anyone else? Board of Aldermen. Alderman Moreland.
No, ma'am.
Alderman Rupp.
No, ma'am.
Alderman
Mayor,
Brooks.
thank you.
Alderman Beatty. Alderman Sistrunk.
No, ma'am.
Vice Mayor.
Just very briefly, Mayor, just thank you for the opportunity yesterday to allow me to represent the city. I really appreciate that.
Certainly, well, very well done.
Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Vaughn.
No, ma'am, thank you.
All right. With that, we move to citizens' comments. Anyone wishing to provide the board input, comments, complaints, compliments, we take them all. You have 3 minutes in which to do so, and we look forward to hearing from you. Mr. Turner, always nice to see you. Hope you're staying warm.
I am. My name is Adam Turner, Ward 7, to the mayor, to the police chief, to the fire chief, sanitation. All right, a lot of people wondering who is standing in for fire chief. We don't want to give them the wrong information. But we just wondering about our fire chief. All right, we appreciate the mayor and the vice mayor and the police chief to make our MLK a success. We want to thank you and want to continue to pray that we can get back on our feet. And we think that we also we have, I looked in the paper and seen what we have problem with leaks and stuff, and we would just like to be updated on where the leaks are or where they're coming from.
All right, thank you, Mr. Turner, and we'll make sure that Interim Fire Chief Davis comes up and visits with you.
All right.
Anyone else? Anyone else under citizens' comments? All right, seeing none, I will close it for citizens' comments. We do have a public appearance this evening. It's always nice to have former Alderman Dumas in the house, so representing the Smart Bus Transit System and all of your associated colleagues, we thank you for what you do. And where's your MSU stuff? I saw the maroon in the house, and you're the one that doesn't have any on, so. Well, I'm not gonna ask, my friend, not gonna ask. All right, so, former Alderman Dumas, please, the floor is yours.
Make Jeffrey blush. All right, thank you all for having me. Always a pleasure to see all of you. I'd like to take a brief moment of privilege if I could. Ronnie White has been with me since 2016. He served notably in the United States military, and he has announced that he is retiring June 30th. So he has made my life considerably more better, if I can say that, and has allowed me to deal with things and let my mind go in ways that it probably wouldn't have if he wasn't there making sure that the day-to-day operations were happening the way that they should. So he'll be greatly missed. This will be his last meeting, and least I could do is give him some kudos tonight. So appreciate everything he's done. All right, so this is a public hearing. It's required by our funding sources to do this, so I appreciate the opportunity to show y'all a few slides, talk about what we've done this past year, what we've got planned for the next year, then obviously receive any questions and comments you may have, and then I just ask that you allow those in the audience who may have comments to do the same. So, system details. I expect you all to be able to memorize this as many times as you've seen it, but we received 5311 rural mass transit funds from the Mississippi Department of Transportation. We received these via the MDOT because we are a rural transit agency. These are Federal Transit Administration dollars. We have 3 different funding sources or funding types in our budget. We have an 80-20 match that is on the capital side, an 80-20 match on the administrative side, and then our operational costs. So our daily drivers, our bus repairs, our tires, our gas, our oil, those are all 50-50 cost share costs. We operate both fixed and flex routes. So the routes you see in the city and on campus that have a set time that they start, they have set stops, they have set routes. Those are all fixed routes. A flexed route is what we operate on the Golden Triangle Airport route. So we're excited about that as well. It gives us a little bit of a scheduling challenge because we're now going operational on 4 or 5 different routes back and forth to the airport. But Tom is aware of that, and Tom is getting it planned and knows how to handle it already. But that is a flex route because you can actually call and schedule that pickup if it's along Highway 12. We have a set stop at the mill. We'll talk about some changes there. And then as we pick you up and bring you back, we'll take you to anywhere along Highway 12, anywhere on campus. We won't take you to a private residence, but we'll take you to either the mill or any of the hotels. And then we must operate in a paratransit. We've talked about paratransit obviously multiple times, and it's a point of pride for us. That's a requirement. By definition, paratransit from a rural agency is meant to get you from the stop where the bus stops on a fixed route system to your front door. It's that last mile service, knowing that there's not ADA accessible routing, et cetera, in rural environments. Thankfully, a lot of our stops in the city are ADA accessible, and so we rely on it not from a last mile from the stop to your front door, but we actually provide door-to-door service for those agents, or for our riders that qualify. And then we participate in regional and statewide coordination. So I've been coming to y'all since 2015-ish, 14-ish, I think, and despite the year of COVID, this is the first year that we've not seen an increase, and a pretty considerable increase in our ridership. Sandra and I have talked about it, Tom and I have talked about it, Ronnie and I have talked about it, we've all talked about it, and there's nothing really that we can put our finger on other than we think maybe the data is just kind of normalizing itself. It's not something that we see that's an issue with us, that it's something that causes concern for us. One of the things I will say is that one of the bigger decreases in any of our routes is on what we call the MSU Central route, which is a route that goes around the city or the core of campus. And we've made, as many of you have probably seen about or heard people complain about, we've made considerable improvements on our campus from a multimodal transportation perspective. So routes that we have decreased from 4 lanes of road to 2 lanes of road with bikes, bike facilities, parallel parking, safer speeds, race crosswalks, all the things that you do to make those roadways more comfortable for all modes of traffic and transportation. But we've seen major increases in bikes on campus, pedestrians on campus, scooters on campus, one-wheels on campus, all the things that are used to get somebody from their individual vehicle to their classroom or the union or wherever they're going. So we think that's a real contributor when you start looking at it. The good thing from a city side, and we always talk about this when we talk about the quality of life that we try to impact in the city, is that we're pretty stable and even growing on most of our city routes. So that's a good sign for us because those that need the service are using the service. It's those riders on campus that are finding opportunities and other options from a transportation standpoint. One of the reasons we know that is when you look at our monthly average on city routes. So 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, 25% of our ridership on our system was from the city of Starkville. Now we're averaging about 45% of our ridership on the city of Starkville. And keep that in mind, we've got a route on campus that averages the Greek South, or the MSU South, about 25,000, 30,000 kids a month on one route. So pretty good ridership when you look at that and the impacts that's being made. I put this graph in there really not to educate you on anything, but to prove that we're still a very dominated system by students on campus. When you look, these are monthly trends, so when you look, and this is 2019, the current year, obviously January, February, March, September, October, November are our biggest months, so obviously carrying a lot of students. But as you can see, we're continuing to maintain pretty good ridership when you look at those routes that are May, June, July that are nothing but city riders. And the fact that we even grew this year in December when you look at routes across the city that in large part don't operate at all on campus. Paratransit is the same. And this is something that was probably most surprising to us. I can't say that I was overly surprised by the fact that 1 year out of 10 we've actually seen a decrease in ridership other than COVID on the fixed route side. But we've stayed as busy as we've ever been, anecdotally, with paratransit riders. And I can say probably, and I wouldn't say this to many people because we still have not declined routes or trips, but I think when you look at paratransit and as busy as we are, we needed some decrease in transportation because we're just wearing out 4 vehicles because we're going from can to can with all the needs that are there. Still a very healthy system, as you can see. So last year was an anomaly. I mean, we grew by 1,200 rides last year in paratransit. And again, these are door-to-door services for those who qualify from a handicap perspective that can be in a wheelchair. We have fully accessible wheelchairs, but others that just have no other means of transportation. Really dominated by a lot of dialysis trips, a lot of other opportunities that aren't just medical. We take people to get their hair done. We take them to get their nails done. As long as you qualify and you're part of that paratransit process and we can fit you in the schedule, we'll do it. And it's a great service for us, and our drivers love doing it because most oftentimes you see them just putting them in the front seat and they're riding like they're riding around with their best friend around town. All right, so what did we accomplish? I mentioned, yes, we've seen some decreases, but the good thing is 2 of our 3 primary routes in the city have grown. One thing that I think is a testament to this, and is something we're continuing to study, is that this year every year we've been harping on a schedule, trying to get fixed schedules so that people can look at a piece of paper and know that the bus is going to leave Walmart at X. And that's easy, it sounds easy, but when you look at driver shortages and you look at other things that play into that, when you go from not having enough drivers on every route and you've got a decreased service on routes, it's just been hard to kind of find the path. But Tom has done a good job this year of putting those processes in place so that we have a very consistent schedule, where that now we have a process where everybody knows that on campus you're going to leave on the hour and you're going to leave Walmart on the hour. And it's just real simple. You go to Walmart, it's going to leave at 8 o'clock. It's going to leave at 10 o'clock. And we see that as being a good benefit for those city riders so they can count on it. Biggest issue we've had through the last 4 or 5 years is a lack of bus purchasing approvals, and that comes from DFA, it comes to MDOT, it comes from COVID. This year for the state of Mississippi, and we actually won 5 awards, and I should have put those on there as a point of pride, but we were recognized as the Public Transit Association of the Year this year by the Mississippi Public Transit Association, in large part because we actually wrote 3 cooperative purchasing agreements for our MDOT that can be used for any state agency, not only in the state but through the country, that have been missing from the bus procurement side. So if y'all want to buy some buses, we don't need you to, you can buy them and give it to us. We're able to do that and be glad of that. Another one is
what's a bus cost?
Well, if you want a heavy duty bus like we run on campus, they're about $900,000 a piece.
Okay, then.
If you want a cutaway like the buses that we have around town, we're pricing those right now about $160,000 a piece. A van, an ADA van, can 30,000 10 years ago. Now they're $75,000, $80,000. They aren't cheap. Another expensive item is training and hiring and maintaining good drivers. We've been very pleased to train our own folks. I don't know if you know the new regulations in terms of commercial drivers, that you now have to have a database and qualified training people. Your location has to be qualified as a training location. And so we've been able to do that on our own, and I think we've done some City of Starkville folks. I know we've done several from the county that have come to us, and we have trained them so that they can go take their test. We only ask that they agree to drive for us from a part-time perspective, so they have to agree to drive 10 hours a month for 12 months. Otherwise, they can go full-time and do what they want. But it's been a great program for us because we've been able to get our own drivers, but we've been able to impact other agencies as well. About a $800,000, $900,000 decrease this year in what we're proposing and asking for, and a lot of this goes to bus costs because we don't have heavy-duty buses that we can purchase right now. But our total budget is right at $6 million. The cost shares I mentioned earlier, we have a total cost share need of about $2.6 million. About 2.3 of that will come from Mississippi State. We have roughly $225,000 in other contracts that we do. That's on game day transport, working on GSDP with the partnership and how we do event transport for them. Other housing agencies that contract directly with us for transportation directly in and out of their facilities. And then obviously we're very thankful for the $100,000 that we receive from y'all every year. And we'd love for y'all to double that or whatever you'd like to do in your
Maybe
company.
we'll buy a bus. Maybe we'll buy a bus.
You can buy a bus. Every year, go and buy a couple of buses, give it to us. But no, we're very thankful of that and appreciate everything that we do. This is our bus system. There's no changes here. There's some minor changes on campus, and I'll talk about that. But I won't bore you with this. But I mentioned the multimodal changes on campus. Those will continue this summer. I can tell you if you don't have to be on campus in the next 6, 8, 9 months between now and the start of school, it'd probably be a difficult time to go on campus. I'd stay away because we're building a roundabout at Stone and Boston. We're going to close down the road, President Circle in front of McCarthy Gym. all those things are things that you shouldn't be overly concerned with, other than we have to make a lot of changes to our route. So a lot of our focus in route changes will be finding ways in and out of those facilities to not just short term, but long term. MSU summer route, one of the things we've learned over the last couple of years, growing numbers of international students going to and from the research park for work activities, internships, et cetera, things that has been a shift, quite frankly, of where they're living, because they're living in the community now on our bus lines. So Lynn Lanes, other places where they know they have bus opportunities, and then when we change things during the summer and now they can't get to their work, it becomes pretty impactful. So we've learned that, we're accepting that. Hiring more drivers, bus purchases. So that's really it. Really kind of stay in the place. Tom is doing some great things and looking at some route efficiencies back to our schedules and how we can improve service across the community. Looking at construction impacts, but really maintaining kind of where we are, because we think we've got some good things going from a scheduling standpoint that people have been asking for quite some time. So I'm going to be quiet.
Any questions
And I will
of
answer any questions.
Mr. Dumas? Do you want,
How long the construction gonna be going on out there?
So the roundabout is supposed to start in the next year, or not year, month or so, and it will be open, supposed to be open by the first day of school. Now, if it doesn't start in the next 3 or 4 weeks, then we'll delay it another year.
manage for us.
Yes, the first one we have, this is a request by Norman Hendricks to allow for an accessory structure within the front yard of 122 Frontier Drive in a TN-E zoning district. The applicant is seeking a special exception to be allowed to keep an open-air gazebo accessory structure within the front yard. You can see images of that if you're on the right. The structure was built in 2023 without prior approval. The UDC does not allow for covered open-air structures within the front yard. This is a corner lot, so you can see this is the graphic from the UDC. This is how that graphic is applied to that lot in an aerial. And then the orange box is the approximate location of the gazebo. The structure does not appear to be located within the site triangle, as you can see in this image, so it isn't blocking any view of oncoming traffic from the stop sign. And since this requirement to not place a structure in a front yard is not dimensional by nature, it is not a variance and therefore is being reviewed as a special exception. The request was noticed in accordance with the UDC. 14 property owners of record were notified directly by mail. A legal ad was published in Starkville Daily News on December 21st, 2024, and a sign posted on the property. As of this date, we received no response from the notifications. And as with all special exceptions, these are the 8 criteria for review and approval. If there are any questions.
Okay, and P&Z voted on this?
Sorry, I did skip that part. Yeah, P&Z voted 4-3 to recommend approval.
Okay, all right. Any questions of Mr. Haviland before I ask the applicant to come up? Okay, all right, is the applicant in the audience? Yes, ma'am, would you like to come share your, any information you have with the board?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to apologize to the board that I didn't know, that you could be a sitting area on your property. I do know that you could build, you have to get a permit to build a living area. But I just didn't know that I had to get one to build the gazebo.
Okay,
And I built the gazebo to beautify my yard, to make my yard look nice.
yes, ma'am. And I drove by there earlier today. You've got a large amount of construction material that's in your backyard. Are you planning on cleaning that up? A lot of lumber and stuff?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm trying to wait till it get warm. I got somebody gonna come and clean my back, and I'm gonna put a private fence around now.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna get
Okay.
it all cleaned up. I already got that in progress to
Yes,
do.
ma'am.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
all right. Any questions? Any questions? Anyone? None? Okay, well, then I need to open this as a public hearing, so thank you for coming up, and I'll do that at this point in time.
Okay,
Anyone have
thank
any concerns or questions or comments about this? I'll open it as a public hearing. You can speak either for or against this particular request, the special exception for the accessory structure. Anyone? Either for or against? All right, seeing none, I will close it as a public hearing. Vice Mayor, you may be recognized.
Mr. Hamlin, just a few inquiries. I noticed that the vote on planning and zoning was 4-3. Could you give me a little background on that?
Yes, the vote, it split 4-3, and Commissioner Dumas, who was just here, was the deciding vote to recommend approval, and it was kind of teetering on setting a precedent and then giving forgiveness. So that's kind of how the vote sort of broke. The ones who voted against it were worried about the precedent. The ones who voted for it were in favor of just kind of a forgiveness.
Mr. Hamlin, with regard to this particular request, I just heard from the applicant that she did not know that she had to get official approval from the board. With regard to this specific request, we've always taken a position, I just have to say this for the record, and that our rules have to be strictly complied with. And this, when I go to court, the judge wants the law complied with. Now, alternatively here, I would think that if the board decides to approve this request, I think it would be good to have a condition on it that would say primarily, if it is approved, that it be approved subject to the condition that if the title to the subject property is conveyed, released, or transferred, then the structure shall be immediately removed. You okay with that if the board decides to do that, given the fact that it wasn't approved prior to being placed on that front yard?
Yes, I think that's an enforceable condition.
Right, and last thing I want to say, Mr. Havlin, because your rule section, I think, is 13.9.1, big paragraph B, 1B. Is that correct? Is that the right rule? You can pull it up, make sure I'm on the record now. I'm on the record, talk to me. 13.9.1, the big B, then a 1B, that would say that any open structure like that shall not be placed in the front yard. Am I right on that rule number 13.9.1 B1B? That's what I saw in the packet. Now yours may say something different, but I need to show it to you.
That is correct.
Got it. Mayor, I yield.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, at this point in time, we have had our public hearing. I need a motion.
I'll make such a motion
All right.
to approve, but with modifications.
With the conditions stated, as stated by the Vice Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, do I need to repeat those? Everyone understand them? All right, I have a motion from Alderman Beatty. Do I have a second?
Second.
I heard a second from Alderman Vaughn. Any other discussion?
Mayor, may we recognize
Vice Mayor?
Mr. Havlin, are we clear, an attorney, we clear on that condition, so when you go into the minute, it's our legal voice?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go, Mayor.
All right, Ms. Harden, did you get that?
The approval is contingent on the structure being removed if the land is sold or leased.
If the land changes hands?
Okay, this is the condition, that is, the language is that the matter be approved, subject to the condition that if the title to the subject property is conveyed, transferred, or released to any other person, then the said structure shall be immediately removed. That's the condition. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Harden, you got that? All right, so that is our motion with a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, it is unanimous. All right, did you understand that? Okay, Daniel, well, no. Lyle, would you help her with that so that she'll understand? Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, Daniel, is yours as well.
This is a request by Sue Ali to allow for the placement of an accessory dwelling unit at 309 Central Avenue in a TNE zoning district. This is Central Avenue right here. Here's the subject property. This is kind of, if you're familiar with the street, sort of the bottom of the hill. And so that's his primary residence. The applicant is seeking a special exception to construct a 2-bedroom, 2-bath accessory dwelling unit in the rear yard. So the image to the left is a site plan. This is his current residence. Here's Central Avenue. Back here is where he's proposing the accessory dwelling unit. And then this is a floor plan of the unit showing 2 bedrooms, a central living area, and then a porch from either end. The proposed unit is approximately 530 square feet. The existing primary structure is approximately 1,204 square feet. The use chart in section 3.3 of the UDC requires a special exception for a dwelling accessory unit in this zoning district. The proposal appears to meet the requirements of the additional standards. The request was notified in accordance to UDC. 21 property owners of record were notified directly by mail, and the legal ad was published in the Starkville Daily News on December 21st, 2024, and a sign placed on the property. As of this date, the planning office has received 1 phone call against the request. Up here is the criteria again for special exception review and approval. And at the January 14th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Haviland? All right, seeing none, is the applicant with us? Yes, sir. Would you like to come kind of give the board your ideas here? Anything you'd like to add to what Mr. Haviland has said?
No, I really, thought it's an investment on my property to increase value of my property. That's basically it.
Okay, all right. Any questions of the applicant? Anyone? All right, seeing none, I'll open it as a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak either for or against this proposal, now would be the time. Either for, yes, sir? And if you would, please come up and tell us your name.
I'm Ed Smith. I live at 313 Central Avenue, and I've got some concerns about it. If you're familiar with Central Avenue, there's basically a ditch that divides Central Avenue in half. If you go west toward North Jackson, there's a single-family homes, there's duplexes, there's apartments, things like that. Matter of fact, a couple of apartments got burnt on Christmas Eve. But if you go east from the ditch to North Montgomery, there are 18 single-family homes. There are no duplexes, no apartments, no anything. There's one house that has, I think it's 2 or 3 living quarters back behind there, and that's the only one of those. And 8 of the houses of those 18 have put a substantial amount of money for improvements and remodeling and that type of thing. And so a little concerned there. And the one house that is of that 18 that has multiple units behind, up until recently, it's been a little problem with noise and traffic at all times of the day and night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. It's gotten better, I will say that. So that's one of the concerns. The other concern is in here, it says that it's supposed to have 1 parking spot per bedroom. The plans show for 3 parking spots. And that worries me. It's like, okay, how are you going to, I guess, monitor that or make sure that it's only 2 instead of 3 or 4? It also says it's supposed to be one adult per bedroom or 2 adults there. How do you ensure that it's going to be only 2 adults there and not 2 adults plus 2 kids or even 4 adults, even though it says it's 2? How do you know that? So that's one concern right there, like I said, is just the parking. And we're already seeing the plan that doesn't adhere to what this says here. And so I'm just concerned what other exemptions, what other things are going to maybe slide through or sneak through that we're not aware of. And I guess the other concern, I know we talked about, or I was told that at one time they came before, I guess, I don't know if it made it to you guys yet, I think it just made it to the planning board, asking for 20 units back there, and that was negated right off the bat. But it's a little bit of concern. It's like, how are we going to make an exception for 1, and then all of a sudden we come back in a few years and it's 2 or 3, and that's just kind of got me a little concerned, going from 20 units down to 1. What is that? That's a big jump down, big decrease there. So a little concerned on some of those things. We've spent a lot of money on that from the ditch east on our houses. I've spent probably $60,000 on my house. The neighbors across the street, it's a completely new house. Neighbors 2 houses up, basically remodeled. So like I said, 8 of those 18 have put substantial amount of money and work and time into theirs. So I just want to be sure that there's a guarantee that it doesn't affect our property values, that it's not going to be a problem with traffic, with noise, and we're proud of our street. We're trying to do what we can to improve it and make it better. And I just don't want step back, and go downhill with anything that might, cause us to lose our property value.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, I will close it as a public hearing. We have, well, if the board wishes to hear from him, we'll do that, so. Anyone else? Okay, board members, want to hear from the applicant again?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, yes, sir, if you'd like to come up.
I just heard my neighbor say something about 20 units on my property.
No, sir, I know nothing about that. We're not aware of that, so. Okay. Mr. Haviland, was there a former request for 20
There
units
was
on the
another,
property?
plan that initially came to us that was showing like several cottages, I don't remember the exact count, in the rear yard. That was immediately told that couldn't happen, it wasn't a possibility.
All right.
And so then the plan was refined, and this was the one that was turned back in.
Okay, all right, so a little urban myth going on there.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, Alderman Brooks.
So Mr. Haviland, this does meet all the requirements? of the-
Correct. It meets the size requirements, location
Size
requirements,
requirements.
all of that, yes.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Alderman Bailey.
All the parking's gonna be off-street, right?
Yeah, what they're showing, there's no on-street parking on that side of the street, and there's really, nobody really parks on that street, but they're showing the 3 parking pads in the back. And because this is a lower intensity residential, you are allowed to tandem park, which you can block another car in. Kind of like, parking behind your wife or something in the driveway. So all that counts as parking.
But this will accommodate, this is rental property, I assume it's gonna be rental property. This will accommodate all the renters off the street, right?
Correct, yeah, and actually, the parking's actually in the rear, it wouldn't even be, in the front of the house.
Is it? Thank you.
Alderman Sistrunk.
I was just gonna ask, is that driveway existing or that will be added?
That's the current location of the driveway, and I believe it goes at least to the side of the house, but looking at it from street view, I think it goes all the way to the rear currently.
Okay.
Here, one question,
Anyone?
please.
Vice Mayor?
Mr. Haviland, at this location of 309 Central Avenue, there is a concrete ditch that is located on the west side of the house.
Correct.
Given the comments from the opposing party on this, what concern, if any, do you have with the fact about the parking, very narrow lot from the existing, I'm very familiar with this location. It used to be in Ward 6 prior to the last redistricting. This lot is very narrow. When I saw this, fit all this in there, of course, I'm not an engineer or architect,
Yep.
but it's gonna be a very tight fit. And for the record, the opposing party has a valid comment. I mean, this is a very quiet neighborhood. We approved major street overlays sometimes. A few years ago, the Central Avenue was reworked. Very seemingly quiet neighborhood, and that is a very legitimate concern. And what I'm inclined to do right now is, after I looked at all the evidence and heard all the evidence, I'm going to oppose this request. It's very important that the evidence be very credible and substantial to me, for me to vote for this change. It's going to be potentially, in my opinion, from the evidence presented tonight, going to bring about a change in the character, to put this additional structure to the rear of this home, and the ditch does not go in a straight line on the west side, kind of curves around that property. It's a concrete ditch I'm very familiar with.
Yep.
And so the existing property seems like it somewhat almost substantially occupy the land that exists there now, and to bring up other structure there is going to be very impacting, and it's reasonable to conclude that it's going to bring some additional noise and traffic that's going to affect the life of one who wants to live in a very quiet and peaceful a residential neighborhood. So, I just want to make sure that I ask that question. That's why I wanted the applicant to come back per my request to the mayor to see what he had to say. But I'm done. I yield. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Alderman Moreland.
Daniel, at 307 Central, which is located right beside this property, there is another dwelling in the back of that property, correct?
I'm not sure.
I just looked at the street view, and they've got 2 units behind that house as well.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
know
not
directly
an
to the-
unusual
It's
thing
not
for the
unusual
neighborhood?
for
Is
that
that what you're
area.
saying?
Yeah, directly to the west, that's apartments that go all the way back through to Kid Lake Road, which when it was platted as a subdivision way back, I think before it even came into the city, Kid Lake Road was supposed to go all the way to Montgomery. And it kind of stopped once it gets behind this property. And so then all the properties from here to the corner are extremely long. They basically have taken up the remaining lot that would have been fronting Kid Lake.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right, I need a motion, either to approve or not.
Move approval.
I have a motion from Alderman Vaughn for approval,
Second.
and a second from Alderman Brooks. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, and the motion carries. All right, thank you. Next item.
This is a request by Kerry Pennebaker to allow for the placement of an accessory dwelling unit at 524 Greensboro Street in a T&E zoning district. This is the location of the lot. It's a very wide and deep lot. The structure is in the back. I've indicated here on the map, but I think it's actually a little further this way. But it's in the wood, or in the back, and it's pretty wooded in the rear of the property. The applicant is seeking the exception to construct a 1-bedroom, 1-bath accessory dwelling unit in the rear yard over a proposed shop. These are the elevations that were included back in early December. The certificate of appropriateness came forward for this property, and they included this in with the certificate of appropriateness, and it's already gone through HPC as far as fitting the character of the neighborhood. This is the floor plan that the applicant has submitted. Here's the shop on the first floor, and then this is the 1-bedroom little efficiency unit on top. Even though the square footage is listed as 625 in the packet, the 625 is what the square footage of the entire shop area is. When you look at the actual room, these corners are not part of it. They're actually outside of the roof line. So I don't know the exact square footage, but I do know it's less than 625. And the existing structure is approximately 3,700 square feet. The use chart in section 13.3 does require a special exception for the accessory dwelling unit in that zoning district. It appears to meet all the additional standard requirements. It was noticed in accordance to UDC. 12 property owners of record were notified directly by mail in a legal ad on December 21st, 2024, and a sign placed on the property. As of this date, the planning officer received 1 email in favor of the request. That email was from an architect who lives on the street, Mr. Schaefer. The UDC has the 8 criteria for special exception review and approval, and at the January 14th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval. Is there any questions?
All right, any questions of Mr. Hamlin? All right, seeing none, is the applicant here? Yes, sir, would you like to come up and? Come on up. Just so we can see your face and get a name to go with it for the record, if you don't mind.
I'm Kerry Pennebaker.
Yes, sir. Okay, and the project is for just a shop?
Just a shop with, just a bonus room above.
Okay, all
Nothing
right.
specific.
All right, any questions of Mr. Pennebaker? Anyone? All right, well, you made the trip for nothing, but we want to appreciate you coming up.
It is replacing a shed, an aluminum shed that has a bad roof on it, so.
Oh, okay, so there's something there now,
There's
and this is just a replacement?
I'm
Okay,
replacing it with something nice.
all right,
All
all right,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. All right, I'll open it as a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak either for or against, now would be your opportunity, either for or against. All right, seeing none, I will close it as a public hearing and entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion from Alderman Rupp. I believe I recognize your voice. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Vaughn. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries and it is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. All right, and next,
This is a request by Scott Williams on behalf of Brian Roundtree to allow for a fourth floor located at 518 University Drive in the T5U zoning district. The applicant is seeking a special exception to allow for the fourth floor. Just to orient you to the property, this is University Drive running this way. Here is the Oddfellows Cemetery. This is a lot that used to have kind of a bungalow style house. I think there's a couple other structures that were recently, or not recently, within the last year that were moved. And across the street is Scooter's Record and then the Rush Arbor Cemetery. On this site, there's two buildings that are shown in orange, Building A and Building B. This request is for only Building A, not Building B. The Unified Development Code allows for 3.5 stories by right, but requires a special exception for fourth floor. And what a half story is like in the roof line where you have an entire floor that's completely concealed inside the roof line with like dormers coming out. And so they were just requesting to have go all the way up to a complete fourth floor, but they're still going to have the sloped roof. This is Building A. It's a mixed-use building. The bottom will have commercial units on the first floor along University Drive, and then the upper floors will all be residential. You can see Building B in the back over here on the right, and then that image, that would be from the parking lot of the interior. But Building B is just a two-story townhome style residential use only. The site plan is currently under review by the Development Review Committee. This building design plan has already been approved through the architecture review process. The request was noticed in accordance with UDC. Non-property owners of record were notified directly by mail. A legal ad ran on December 21st, 2024, and the sign posted on the property. As of this date, we have received no responses to the notification. UDC has the 8 criteria for special exception review and approval, but because this is located in a form-based district, there's also an additional criteria of the intent of form-based district, which it also appears to meet those. At the January 14th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request.
okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Haviland? Alderman Brooks?
So we're good on parking? No problem there?
Yes.
Is any
They
excess
have
parking?
enough parking for the residential units. The commercial doesn't necessitate parking in that zoning district.
So we do have plenty of parking there?
Correct, and it's all on the interior of the site. No.
And you said it had been through architectural review and no problems there?
Yeah, no problems. It was approved on the first submittal.
And we do have On Street parking nearby.
That's true.
And they're doing, as part of this, there's some pretty big street upgrades that they're doing along that section of Jarnigan and along the section of University Drive. They're widening out the sidewalk, they're adding on-street parking. So there's a lot going to this. They're putting the utility lines underground. So it's a lot going to do, drastic improvement to the corner.
So they're gonna add some sidewalks there?
Yeah, it'd be the sidewalks that would have minimum 8-foot width all across the front.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, is the applicant here? Yes, sir.
I'm Brian Roundtree, so Scott Williams was who actually submitted it. He's the architect, so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Roundtree?
Just
Alderman
one or two.
Brooks?
So these are gonna be rental property?
They are. We're going
Yeah.
to keep all of them.
Okay. But I mean, there's a lot of those condominiums going on in that part of the world. Are you planning on building this so that, you know, with the firewalls and stuff, so it could?
Yes, it will be developed just like you would condos, so that if we ever decided to sell them individually, we could do that without any modification.
Okay. It's a good looking project. Thank you. That's it.
It'd be nice to have that corner dressed up. So, any other questions? Any questions? All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, I need a motion and a second.
Move approval, Mayor.
A motion from Alderman Brooks. Do I have a second? Second from Alderman Vaughn. Oh, did I? I'm sorry, I didn't open it as a public hearing. Okay, well then you should yell at me. He yelled at me, that's all right. Sorry, I'll open it as a public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak either for or against, now is your opportunity, either for or against. All right, seeing none, I will close it as a public hearing. And go back to what we were doing, which I have a motion and a second. So, any other discussion? Alderman Brooks and Alderman Vaughn made the second. All right, anyone else? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. And then number 5, I'll see if I can remember the public hearing for this one.
This is a request by Andrea Shoemaker on behalf of Starkville, Iowa School District to allow for the placement of a manufactured home on a vacant lot at 560 Louisville Street in a RN zoning district. This is the location of a lot right here. That is the school. This is Louisville Street as it runs that way. This is a map based on information that was provided by Mike Ainsworth on behalf of the school district back in 2020. On this map, it shows leasable areas that are along Sand Road. This lot fronts Louisville on 16th section, as it's shown right there. The map shows all these proposed leasing areas, including what is called Area A. Area A went through the special exception process with the Planning and Zoning Commission in September of 2020. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, they voted to deny the request because it was located on Louisville Street. This request was noticed in accordance to UDC. One property owner within 160 feet of the subject property was notified directly by mail. Since they are the primary owner of all of this, the only property owner or anybody with a tax record is actually right across the street. The legal ad was published in the Starkville Daily News on December 21st, 2024, and a sign posted on the property. As of this date, we received no response to the notifications. This is, as with all the previous ones, these are the 8 criteria for review and approval. At the January 14th Planning and Zoning Commission, the Commission voted 4-3 to recommend approval of the project. And if there are any questions.
All right, any questions of Mr. Howard? Mr. Brooks?
So, I think I was part of that.
Me too.
Yeah, that previous planning and zoning. So what changed between whenever we voted to deny it and then voted in favor of it? New
As far
evidence
as
or?
what changed their opinion, I really don't know. I know with the school district, because they've already leased this property to the applicant prior to ever seeking any kind of approval through us. They've had some changeover at staff, the school district, and I guess the information just was not passed along to the person in charge of it now.
You do remember that lease that they executed and then the TVA easement came across there?
Yeah, I believe it was this one right here.
Rendered that useless?
Yeah, all 3 of those have TVA.
We had significant problems with them at the time.
Yeah, and a lot of it was Mr. Ainsworth that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Y'all, Mrs. Strunk.
And my understanding is that as part of the previous request that came before the board, it was made clear to the school district that we would not be approving these sorts of developments along Louisville.
That's correct.
And it just didn't get conveyed by the school board.
It wasn't conveyed to the person in charge of it now. It has since been conveyed. We actually had a packet of information that we handed. It was kind of like, here's the process, here's the application, here's all the rules. And that information apparently wasn't passed on, but we've actually gone back and updated that information and then resent it to them for any future requests.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
One
Alderman
more
Brooks?
thing, I'm sorry, just,
Okay.
that's my route to the airport, so I'm knowing that road quite a bit. You know, we do have one manufactured home there now that's been there 2 or 3 years or maybe more, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, can't remember. But, and it has no underpinning under it whatsoever, you know, it's kind of like, they moved it in and then they just kind of quit working on it. I don't know how I'm concerned about it with this cold weather, but again, it's nothing under that.
Is that on the same side of the street or
On
is
the
that
same
the one
side of the
across
street, yeah, it's directly across the street from Emerson School.
Okay, up in this area. Yeah, I believe there was one that was approved back before the UUC in that area.
Thank you, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. All right, anyone else? All right, is the applicant here? Yes, ma'am. Would you come forward, please, ma'am? Would you like to share anything with the board?
So, my name is Andrea Shoemaker. When we leased this land from the school, we were not aware of the circumstances that were presented before us. We weren't made a known of what the city requested. And it was after the fact, after we had already purchased, paid the lease and cleared the land, that we were made aware that we had to come through this project.
All right. Any questions of the board? Any questions of Ms. Shoemaker?
I wasn't around for the backstory on this, but how did it get to this point?
Well, because the school board or their leasing agent, I think they actually have a leasing agent, went ahead and leased it, and without passing along the information and without making anyone aware, which is what Mr. Haviland was saying about the lack of communication. We let the school district know several years ago,
Yes.
and somehow or another, there's a lack of continuity when they changed personnel, or changed leasing agents, or whoever it is they use. That information apparently did not get passed along. And so we find ourselves dealing with this now. So, anything else, Alderman Rupp?
Well, so if we turn this down and she's leased the property, she can't put it home.
Well, you have to take it up with the school board.
Take it to school. and-
Yes, or the school district, I would say. I want to make sure that, are you, anything else?
No.
But I
On
mean,
the-
clarify what Alderman Rupp said, if we deny this, she can't put her house in, regardless of what school. it is.
Correct. But if you were leasing it, you might want to go back to the school board and say, oh, by the way. So,
I would like to ask that, how much money y'all have invested now in the lot?
The clearing of that lot, we spent over $1,500.
And you paid the school district for the lease on, this is 16 section property, right?
Yes, sir, I've
So you
already
just
paid
get
for it.
long-term leases on that, right?
Yes, sir, I have my lease already signed and approved by the school board.
Is a lease on something like that a one-time payment? It's almost like buying something. How does the lease work on
I
16
pay
section?
the taxes on the land every month in November.
Plus any additional monies, or you just paying the taxes on the property?
I pay a set fee of $500 every November, starting since last November.
And the school district just did not convey to you
No, sir,
what the previous ruling of the zoning board and the city board had been on that?
that is correct. When I received the knowledge, I'm the one that actually delivered it to the school board.
When I dropped the ball, when the school board started. Mayor,
okay. Alderman Moore?
What did the school board say when, have you gone back and approached them about the lease and how there's a conflict?
Yes, ma'am, that's when they actually brought it. We actually had a meeting with the planning and zoning committee, Mr. Lau, the gentleman here. They explained it to us, but like I said, it was after the fact that I had already paid my money and the land was already cleared off.
Did they say anything about any possible solutions as far as that goes? On their side, like transferring the lease to another parcel or some type of credit?
No, ma'am.
Daniel, do you happen to remember what they did with the one 4 years ago when we went through this, or 5 years ago?
I don't know how they handle it internally. I don't know if they're able to transfer to another lot on Sand Road. If that's kind of their internal.
You done?
I was gonna ask Alderman Brooks if he
Alderman
remembered,
Brooks.
because he was on planning and zoning when I was with the
The one that, with the TVA easement across it, they did transfer that lease, I do remember that. Because it was unusable. The easement took up the biggest part of the lot, and she couldn't put her house in front and behind, and the lease, for the TVA easement, the power line was made, and you couldn't get it financed.
Generally, if you have a lease that doesn't allow you to use the property, there's an opportunity for you to get out of that lease, I would say, depending on what the language of that lease is. So, Alderman Vaughn, I saw your hand.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I was at the meeting when this come about. I sat in on the meeting when it came up. It came from two previous, whoever was running the school system, two previous. And somehow or another, they weren't communicating with whatever our codes were. And that's how the ball got dropped. But we can't penalize her because she already printed off and paid her money and did all this. And that's, I guess, this where we at now. This how they got to here. Because the ball got dropped from the school system. And Daniel and I was there, Lyles, all of them together. And so they got somebody responsible now and they got better records, keeping better records.
Anything else? Vice Mayor.
Mayor, what is your recommendation? How we should proceed on this request?
Well, I think it's quite possible that she could find another location from the school. As I said, from a legal standpoint, if you can't use the property for what you leased, for the purpose for which it was leased, it's probably an alternative there. If they have had a history of doing that in the past, then there may be an option to do that again. So I think, if nothing else, I would try to work something out with the school district. But in this case, we have a very prominent road that is, that we're trying to, create an entry into the city on. So my suggestion would be to deny it and see if the board wishes to, the school board or the school district wishes to give her an alternative.
So the request is to deny this request.
It's entirely up to the board, but
I know, but your recommendation.
but in order for us to continue not to set this precedent and have this happen to us again, I think that this is, we've done it before. I would suggest that we do the same thing again. So.
Thank you. Last, Mr. Hamlin, as I understand the facts here, this vacant lot, if this mobile home is allowed, it would just sit facing this major thoroughfare?
Correct. It would run parallel with the street.
How you doing, Mayor?
Anyone else? Alderman Beatty, and then Alderman Rupp.
If that's the case, question to the applicant, would you be satisfied with another location if you were compensated for your investment on that side, or is this just place that you want? I mean, is there another, I understand there are other mobile homes on Sand Road?
Yes.
So there are mobile homes there. Would you be, were there any other location that you've looked at?
That is the only location that they've shown me that they said was available. The actual location, there are trees in front of in the driveway when you turn in, there are trees that's blocking, so you wouldn't actually see the trailer directly from the street's view.
Alderman Rupp, anything else, Alderman Beatty?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I would suggest that if we're headed toward denial on this thing, we need to table this until she gets pushed back to the school board and finds out if there's any alternative to another location that might be, compatible with what she's looking for. In other words, if we deny it, the school board doesn't come forward and she's stuck with the investment, and we're not in the right place.
Okay.
I mean, I'd say if that's the case, I would say for us to table, not deny it, let her go back to school board and tell them just, situation she's in. And then I don't know, but if you would consider working it out with them or something like that, then it comes back to us later. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, all right. Alderman Rupp, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I understand wanting to beautify Lewisville Street, although I think it's gonna be a while till we do, but I'm not comfortable with saying no and then her not having any alternative. So I'd like to see if there is some way to work anything else out. But I just to say no, I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay, all right. Alderman Ball.
Let's take a vote. I'd rather take a vote before we deny it, because she's been to the school board, and she's been to the school board with it, because the school board met with us. When we met together, the school board was there then. So let's take a vote.
Was it the school board or was it the school district?
The one that
Somebody from the district.
The one that in charge now.
Who was it that was there, Mr. Hamlin?
Pastor Bourne.
Their leasing agent.
Oh, okay, all
So
right.
you got a new agent now, so
Okay. All right, well, it's the board's pleasure if I need a motion.
So moved.
Well, I need to open it as a public hearing. So if you'll step back, I'll open it as a public hearing. All right, anyone wishing to speak either for or against this particular request, now would be the time. Yes, sir.
I'm Sammy Shoemaker, and I'm Andrea's father, and I think most of you know me. And I do work for the Starkville Consolidated School District. And so what she was saying is accurate. We were seeking out to get her out of rental property so that she could move
move forward to own her own property. And just given the cost of housing in Starkville and Ottawa County, we thought that this would be the most profitable way to start by getting a mobile home for her. So we went forward to seek after 16 section property, and we went through the process, and Timothy Bourne is now the supervisor over 16 section property with the school district. And so he was unaware of this rule of not allowed 16 section property to be leased on Louisville Street. And I was not aware of that rule either. So we had gone through with the application process and sought after the individual to do the land clearing. We got that done, and she was finishing up the process to find that this rule had been put in place a few years ago. And we had the disconnect from the previous person, Mike Ainsworth, to the ones who followed him. So there was absolutely nothing there within the school district to let us know that this was a rule. And in my capacity with the school district, I work in a law enforcement capacity with the school district, and that's my job, is enforcing rules, enforcing the law. And had I been aware of this, there's absolutely no way that we would have gone to secure that spot. So just on behalf of her, I am just humbly requesting if we could get the approval on this, and we will seek after to make sure that the property is very presentable, as anybody will travel into Starkville. I do understand the concept on what we're doing, but we will do our very best to make sure that the property is presentable to incoming traffic in Starkville. So again, thank you for your time, and I do humbly request for approval.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else for public hearing? Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close it as a public hearing. Alderman Sistrunk, I see your hand.
I have a question for Mr. Haviland, or the applicant. Would the entrance to the lot be from Louisville Street or from Sand Road?
It's from Louisville. It's not touching this one right here.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's not touching.
I'm sorry.
There's actually an existing driveway that's already there.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions? All right. Alderman Vaughn, you had asked for a motion, so you had asked to move forward. Do you have a motion?
Yes, ma'am. Move approval.
All right. I have a motion for approval from Alderman Vaughn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Beatty. All right. Let's do this one on a roll call vote. If you would, please answer yea or nay as a city clerk. Well, let me ask this. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none. Answer yea or nay as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Moreland,
Nay.
Alderman Sistrunk,
Nay.
Alderman Rupp,
Yay.
Alderman Brooks,
Nay.
Alderman Beatty,
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Nay.
Alderman Bond.
Yay. All right. The motion fails, Alderman Vaughn. So with that, do we have a second motion? Have a motion from, I'm sorry, Alderman Moreland.
I want to go off of what Alderman Beatty said. Is it possible to table it until the next, I don't know, we just voted
We just did it.
denied, so
Can we bring it
how
back?
can we walk it back to give her a chance to work it out with the school district? I know that's a little complicated.
Well, I mean, if you want to table it until the next board meeting, or if you want to table it for 2 board meetings, or
I would like to table it, and I do understand the predicament she's in, but I'm all about consistency, and I've had this issue in front of me. I think this is the 4th time since planning and zoning, and we need to stay consistent with it. But I would like for her to have a chance to work it out with the school district before she just gets denied.
okay, I have a motion to table from Alderman Moreland. Do I have a second?
Second.
May I ask a question?
Hang on, let me get my second. So Alderman Brooks. All right, Alderman Beatty?
Will that supersede or undo what we just did?
Well, we just
We just denied it. We just denied, well, we just.
Well, no, he voted for approval. We
Right.
did not deny it. His motion failed for approval, so we have not denied it yet.
Okay, all right.
So we're at a table right now. So I have a motion and a second to table. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so I will go with, that is on a 6-1. All right, thank you. So it is tabled.
So it's still in suspense until.
Yes, it is tabled. So if someone wishes to bring it back, we have additional information to bring it back. Okay?
So to the applicant, her next move would be to go
To the
back
school
to the school district.
The school board itself, or no.
Okay? Do you understand? Okay. All right. All right. That takes us to the claims docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I heard Alderman Rupp, a second from Alderman Sistrum.
Sure.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries. And that then takes us to a closed determination session. Do I have a motion to go into a closed determination session
So
to
moved.
discuss the need for executive session? Alderman Rupp, is that a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Alderman Brooks, a second? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going into a closed determination session to determine the need to go into executive session. If everyone would clear the room. 2025-4113. The board will have a work session on Friday, the 31st of January, 2025, at 11 a.m. That meeting will be held at City Hall in the second floor conference room located at 110 West Main. Notice should be provided to this work session within 1 hour of this meeting by posting such notice at City Hall. Notice for the work session shall be made a part of the minutes of the board meeting, and it will be an open public meeting of the City of Starkville. Public and press are invited to attend. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
All right. Alderman Rupp wants to get out of here. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Brooks. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.